It's time. The most mysterious man in WoW. One of the most tragic is due his fated return. On a recent run through Legion's Karazhan to get some tasty screenshots, we discovered something that, with new context provided by Dragonflight's story, means a lot more than it meant back then. And as much as I'm starting by talking about some in-game things and how we came to our conclusion, it's worth knowing there's a literal smoking gun. Like actual game assets that are backing this up. So, trust me, this one is going to be quite the ride. As is our sponsor. HelloFresh.com, where code 50Bellular gets you 50% off plus free shipping. And you can get your autumn off to an awesome start by just solving dinner. HelloFresh handles all the meal planning and the shopping to deliver everything you need to cook up a tasty meal that's nutritious and healthy right at home. They do that hard part, right? And if time is even more short on the day, you can choose their quick and easy or 15-minute meal options. I use these a lot, and they are far faster than takeout or delivery, and here in the city that I live in, Belfast, so much cheaper. I had these tacos recently. They're absolutely delicious. They tasted super fresh. Each week, you get 40 recipes and 100 add-on items to choose from, which is a hell of a lot of dishes to try, and with them also now doing lunches and breakfasts, I mean, that's just so much of your week's planning and shopping just handled. I mean, come on, we play MMORPGs, right? We like to quest stack and do things efficiently. Plus, learning to cook because they make it so approachable. Your house not being just full of random ingredients because they ship you what you actually need. It's so much more simple. So go to HelloFresh.com. That's where code 50Bellular will get you 50% off plus free shipping, which is an amazing deal for something that's an amazing quality of life improvement. Legion was full of chests. The game was a loot pinata back then, with every purple outline being a chance at some more artifact power. So, this Legion cache found in Karazhan was nothing out of the ordinary, until we read the flavor text on the item that dropped. The time-corroded breastplate, an unremarkable grey item, sent our lore wheel spinning. It's actually a painting of a battle between tusked humanoids and giant faceless creatures. Trolls fighting faceless ones. And of course, at the time we understood that this referred to the Akir and Troll War, which happened long after Azeroth was ordered, about 16,000 years before the Dark Portal opened. But since then, we've had some new information. We've had a lot of reason to believe that pre-Titan Azeroth was a much different, or at least more interesting place than just a bunch of raging elements and old gods. For a start, Eyes of the Earth Mother tells us about Musha, or Elune, and Anshe, who led the Tauren in defense against the early Black Empire. If Tauren existed back then, but Chronicle says nothing about them, which is literally true, it's not a stretch to imagine that trolls may have been pre-Titan as well. And then we get this. This breastplate shows them fighting faceless creatures. There's only one type of creature we call a faceless one, right? And it's these, the Naraki, who were basically all sealed underground by Titan forces. The Akir, which is an old god-aligned insect race that the trolls fought, are an entirely different race. The Naraki were almost entirely dormant between the fall of the Black Empire and the reawakening in Warcraft 3, when the Nerubians dug to escape Arthas. This breastplate then could be seen as a major hint that Azeroth had native trolls and that they mounted the resistance against the Black Empire alongside the Sun and Moon, Anshe and Musha, and the early Tauren. And that's just one item. And I'd also bring in a little bit of outside of the lore context. It hasn't come to pass in Dragonflight right now, but I believe in interviews Blizzard had talked about primal trolls being a thing that we would see. Of course, we haven't seen that, but it will align with what I'm talking about today. Anyway, that was one item, so we did a bit more searching, and it turns out this Legion cache contains a whole lot of items just full of flavor text that's worth paying attention to. All of them are referencing the earliest days of Azeroth, like, say, the crumbling ceremonial vestments. These are robes with markings that match Elune, but also some Loa. So, very early Night Elf stuff. Then in a similar vein, these brittle chitinous shoulder pads, they're ancient by Asharan standards and are etched with Loa sigils, which makes it seem like pre-elf trolls. Now this sparked a whole new line of thought because these items were in Karazhan. What the hell was Medivh researching? What did he know about the time before the Sundering and even the time before the Titans? So what does it mean? And that's where I'll be fully transparent here. My first thought was, oh my god, Medivh has been researching all of this. He's part of our time travel antics. But then we realized something crucial. These were not found just in the Legion cache, but actually were across a bunch of drops and treasures throughout Legion. So the thing was our dream dead? And it turned out, no, not even close, because all the world building still applies. And that was only one part of what we realized in our visit to the Wizard's Tower. Everything truly is coming together, and Karazhan fits as a final missing piece. The Black Empire, the Old Gods, and what the Titans really did on Azeroth. These are connected to our current mysterious, villainous duo, Iridikron and Xal'atath. In the same breath, we have to mention Elune, the, quote, upstart goddess, that's what Xal'atath called her, that was fighting on the ground with her brother, the Sun. You know, Anshe and Musha fighting against these forces of darkness with the Tauren, as we are told in Eyes of the Earth Mother, right? The Tauren mythology. Then there's Ashara, of course. Ashara is off exploring the Void right now. The Void, which we used to think was just tentacles all the time, is intentionally looking more astronomical in nature. Stars, planets, space. Phrased another way, the current story beats of WoW are this. Space aliens want our planet for their own, and we've been told a bunch of lies about what they actually did when they arrived. We have the one group of space aliens making deals with the angry man who wants to help the space aliens win, and the particular space alien he's dealing with calls the moon an upstart goddess. There's an elf corrupted by the space alien who is currently in space finding powerful space magic. And there are the space bandage people, a space elf who we all sort of forgot about, and we just killed a dragon who was using space magic. You get the point. Space! Now, here's the Karazhan connection. Karazhan is literally described as a conduit to other worlds. Indeed, initially, it had this link to something called the Chronal Spire on Draenor and Warlords of Draenor, but that plotline was dropped. Still, it just shows the amounts of craziness going on with Karazhan. Now, in the Burning Crusade, when we went to another planet, we came back to Azeroth because Legion agents had found Karazhan, a beacon shining in the Twisting Nether, and they wanted to seize it to start an invasion. Yes, that's why we go to Karazhan in TBC. Then in Legion, we had another return to Karazhan when another Legion agent arrived and wanted to basically connect Karazhan to every Legion world at once. That was the first time that we had ever in WoW seen the real present-day character Medivh, which is insane. When his work was done at the end of Warcraft 3, he vanished, believing that was it. But he returned when he was needed. You see, the Dark Portal connects to Draenor, but Karazhan, it connects to so much more. Character-wise, it would have made sense for Medivh to help us mount the ultimate assault on the Legion world using Karazhan, right? That would have made so much sense in the Legion expansion, but instead, that fell to Illidan, using, of course, the Sargarite Keystone, and then the Draenei taking us there on the Vindikar, a much more climactic ending to the Legion storyline. Medivh was entirely left out of that. In fact, it wasn't that he was left out. The character of Medivh said that he couldn't afford to help fight the Legion because he was, quote, needed elsewhere. What does he know that we don't? That was in Legion, and at that time, we had no real idea what else lay on the horizon, except for, of course, a future Void Lord threat. That's all we thought back then. On top of that, he had already passed on his role because at the end of Karazhan in Legion, he metaphorically passed the Guardian title on to Khadgar, but not its power. He kept that burden for himself. No longer the Guardian of Azeroth, he has so much more to protect with that power. So, the last time we saw Medivh, he took off into the Twisting Nether, the space between space, never to be seen again. So, the most powerful wizard of all time is currently unaccounted for. Khadgar then before he came to help in the Dragon Isles, spent the entirety of the last 2 expansions in Karazhan finding, he said, a way to heal Azeroth. Except for a very quick jaunt into the Shadowlands to have a chat with Jaina, where he notably said this, quote, "For years I've read about this place in Medivh's books. I stood atop Karazhan and caught glimpses through the veil." And yes, that is something we didn't talk about enough. Karazhan is so powerful that not only can he peek into other, places in space, seemingly even in time, if the whole chronal spire thing was meant to go anywhere in Warlords of Draenor, but also into complete other realms, such as the Shadowlands. But our focus today is Old God, space, and Medivh. So in Battle for Azeroth, Rathian went to Karazhan, right? He went there to find a way to stop Old God corruption, and Rathian's findings helped him save Ebonhorn, now we call him Abyssian, his dragon name, and of course to make our N'Zoth-resistant cloak. Now, Medivh had been sitting, as it turned out, on some crazy knowledge for all of this time, knowledge that Rathian was able to use. And the last thing that we noticed when we were going back through this tower recently was this room. Now, you've likely never been in this room because you didn't need to come up the stairs in the dungeon unless you were doing the Mage Mount quest. What are all those planets? We have absolutely no idea, except one of them is obviously Azeroth. Everyone seems to know about these other planets except for us. Khadgar went there, he spent a few years there, of course he knows. The next question then, what the hell is Medivh doing? He knows about all these planets, he has all of this knowledge that's so deep and so powerful, he's pretty much the most powerful, mage alive. Maybe, I don't know how him and Ashara would fight, but still, he's pretty much that. So our next question, what is he doing? A lot, I think. Back in Legion, Star Augur Atreus spoke of planets that fell. In Shadowlands, we learnt that Elune, our moon, has actually created Night Warriors on other planets, which of course matches the story of Eyes of the Earth Mother, which had Azeroth send Musha and Anshe together off into space to hunt down the Void Threat themselves. And again, I'm going to, of course, bring up Anshul, the Cosmic Wanderer. This was mentioned in flavor text in, was it the Trinket that recently dropped from Sarkarath? It's just an item, right? But it references this Anshul, the Cosmic Wandering. What is that? It does sound like a corrupted Anshe, given that it hurls void magic at people. Who exactly knows? Surely Medivh would know. I mean, who is this Cosmic Wanderer? Or have we met them before? Has Medivh met them before? Put simply anyway, Medivh is the eminent expert on the 2 biggest plot threads in WoW's next expansion, history and space. He is, right now, a guy absolutely loaded into the gun that is lying in the drawer of Steve Denuser at work, ready to be fired the next time we need a cool-ass character to shepherd us into the next big thing and give us some excellently delivered exposition as we go. And I think that time is sooner rather than later because Khadgar foreshadowed his own death in Shadowlands. He spoke to Jaina about how he wanted to see the place on his own terms first, because he feels the weight of his years. Of course, I hate to think about it, but maybe Khadgar's final moments are on the horizon, and perhaps before he goes, we're going to need the 2 greatest wizards of all time to team up for one final adventure. And also, let's not forget the other smoking gun. Blizzard recently reminded us of Medivh directly. We've been saying for months now that Blizzard are pulling assets from the next expansion to put them into the store and the trading post. They have done stuff like this for absolute years since Warlords of Draenor. We had the Koi mount, we had the recent store transmogs that are clearly from some future content, and they've done it. Countless examples in the past. So why then did they put the Guardian pack on the store? Why did they model Medivh armor and sell it to players? Why is it in the trading post? Later this year, quote, possibly, later this year. Did you know that also includes after the 11.0 expansion announcement? Maybe it's nothing, or maybe it's Blizzard doing their old wink wink nudge nudge like they do every single time. It's food for thought. But if Medivh is to return, what does that future look like? One of the greatest tropes in fantasy is the wise old wizard man, the Gandalf, the sage. It runs so deep as an archetype that even Jungian psychology connects it to the collective unconsciousness, which I think speaks that it's a good story that people like to latch on to. Obviously, Gandalf's your big example. Ben Kenobi in the original Star Wars. Medivh was Warcraft's version of that character, but like all of Warcraft's ideas, beneath his shape-shifting wizard prophet exterior lay a crippling guilt and encroaching darkness. He led a brutally tortured life. He died at the hands of his closest friends after he could no longer hold back the evil Sargeras had implanted in him before his birth. But like any truly great wizard, he became stronger in death. His end, it freed him from Sargeras' corruption, and as soon as he could, he set about righting all of the wrongs. He took on the mysterious mantle of the prophet, flying around in Atisha's raven form, delivering wisdom bombs and cryptic warnings to people. He set to bring, of course, Thrall's young horde and the humans and the Night Elves all together to stop Archimonde and to push the Legion back until, well, the Legion expansion. Since that day in Karazhan when Medivh severed the tower's connections to the Legion worlds and went off himself in search of answers, WoW has been flooded with references to Void, which clearly as time has went on has become more about space itself. If we have questions, our epic cryptic sage could have the answers. Imagine this, Khadgar kicks down the door while we're sleeping. Champion, we have a job to do. He teleports us to the Deadwind Past, where we meet a delegation from the Alliance and the Horde, Tyrallion, Aleria, Arator perhaps, maybe Anduin's back, Bane's probably there, maybe Lillian, maybe Thrall's out of retirement again, Tyrande shows up, saying Mother Moon called her here. Right, the loudest, most desperate she's ever sounded, and the sky over Karazhan is darkening. There are void elementals everywhere, flying through the tower, all this crazy stuff in the opening scenario, and at its peak we find Medivh locked in a spell holding something back. Khadgar and Illyria help him, pushing a giant hand, maybe a tendril, back through a crack in the sky. Medivh then gets to have an amazing speech about how the void has pierced the veil and we've got to go and deal with it. We then go flick a bunch of magical switches throughout Karazhan, turning it back on, while Medivh tells us what's happening as we turn Karazhan into our interplanetary gateway hub. Maybe we go to the Void Planet, maybe multiple, or maybe Karazhan is just where we mount our defense against the Void invasion, but either way, since that day that Medivh left, he has been the one we've needed back to deal with it all. He is the loaded gun, and now the Dragonflight has brought the Void to the forefront again with its new stellar form. He and all of his cosmic wisdom look primed to go off any second. Last time we saw him, he said he was needed elsewhere. I think soon he's going to be needed back on Azeroth again. I love this video. I think this is one of the best in a long time. I absolutely adore it. I think this could be absolutely fantastic. This could be such a good way to tie all of these things together, and it would match with so much of what Blizzard have been setting up. What I want to know is, what do you think? Let me know down below. Medivh, one of the coolest characters, especially if, you started the franchise playing Warcraft 3 like I did. I mean, this is big shit. So let me know what you think. Have a brilliant day. Check out the other lore videos on the channel if you want more of this goodness. I'll see you next time.